So the nature of the model is got a couple of components. Firstly, obviously there needs to be a core, and that is represented by my co-founders of the business. So Richard Barnsdale here in the UK, Fiona Green in South Africa, individuals I've known for a long time, but also deep with specialist knowledge in our industry. So that's the founder population, but the broader resourcing or the broader team is actually drawn from, if you like, a bench, and that bench is made up of individuals with deep subject matter expertise, with long tenure in the industry. So the intention of that bench is that based on the nature of the mandate, you can draw on that capability in conjunction with founders as relevant. So that expertise could embrace strategy, market research, product management and prioritization, transformation, operating models, but also things like executive coaching, working with leadership teams, but drawing on that and deeper, it could include disciplines like network management, technology innovation. So it really is designed so you've got flexibility on how you leverage that resource, but for the resources themselves, obviously going back to some of the principles here, you've got individuals in many instances that want to operate themselves in a flexible way. So you want to leverage those resources in line with their own requirement. They want to contribute. They want to actually make a difference from an industry point of view, but they want to operate and work in a different way. Now, the benefit of that, as it relates to the client, is obviously you're bringing together a specialist team of people who've been in the industry, they understand the industry, they're bringing that specialist knowledge to the nature of the assignments or the resourcing demand that they have. The intention and the practice, and I've operated this way myself, is to actually offer a pragmatic approach that is highly actionable from a client perspective. So the fundamental model is focused on observations. Those observations can be spread across a series of disciplines. So let's say, for example, an organization is looking at their position in the marketplace. That could include things like branding, their client model, their resourcing profile, their product model. It could include a variety of things. Our model is designed to basically do a deep dive on their current arrangements and then make a series of observations around each of those classifications as they're agreed with the client. From that base, develop a series of recommendations around those observations that are actionable as far as the client is concerned. So bearing in mind that we're operating across different types of client engagement and we're operating in different geographies, obviously the composition of that will vary, but the fundamental model is observations, recommendations, but at a very actionable level. This isn't something that translates itself into 200-page decks. This actually translates itself into, here's the actions that you can take that will make a strategic difference to your business. Well, the journey was essentially my desire when I set up as an independent was to use the experience I'd gained in my career, but to build something that basically was for me personally. So I'd be involved in advisory mandates, maybe non-executive roles. But the transition to Adapa was, I felt there was a much greater opportunity with the banks, with the financial institutions, but also with the emergence of fintech and the extent of developed technology companies that work in our sector. I felt there was a much broader segmentation opportunity, and obviously to capture that you really need to scale up the business to an appropriate degree. The other thing that I found was that from a resourcing point of view, there was a number of people that approached me or engagements that I was involved in where you had extremely talented people that for various reasons had separated from the organizations that they'd worked for maybe large parts of their career. Now, some of that was due to corporate activity, of course, but in other instances it was people looking for a change in how they worked in keeping with what's happening in the broader workplace. So the opportunity I felt was to capture that pool of talent and then utilize that talent from a mandate and advisory perspective. So that was one of the key drivers, seeing demand, but also identifying the fact that there was a much broader talent. The other kind of part of the pyramid is that with the extent of individuals that are leaving the industry for the reasons I've mentioned, obviously that's putting pressure on institutions because you're actually losing people that often understand these businesses from an end-to-end point of view. They've got lots of subject matter expertise. So as there's a demand for that experience that may have left the industry, the intention is that you leverage that pool of talent, and that in turn can assist the organizations. And that could be development of strategy, looking at their approaches to their client model, their technology model, their operating model, and so forth, looking at new markets, new opportunities, dealing with innovation, the emergence of transformational or disruptive approaches to the industry. So bringing all those factors together, it seemed the right time to look at a model where you could bring it together and introduce something different to the market. No, definitely synergies in the two, so if you kind of relate that to my previous comments, obviously we can deploy individuals in the context of a mandate. There could be instances where the mandate has a longer duration that requires resourcing for a longer period, almost in an interim management type of role. And then, of course, there's other opportunities that may lead to full-time executive placement that potentially could come from that pool of talent, or it could come from a wider pool. In terms of the executive search component specifically, our intention is to do that in Africa. And the reason for that is that, of course, there's search businesses in Africa, but we felt there was an opportunity, particularly in the post-trade and the security services space, to have a specialist focused on that could meet the demands of the banks, market infrastructure, the financial institutions, asset managers, pension funds, and so forth, because that real detailed specialist focused doesn't really exist in that way from an Africa perspective at the moment. No, the strategic advisory, wherever we do business with clients, we'll be doing that across the entire business. So that's obviously a major focus. And in that regard, our intention is that where we provide advisory services, that hopefully we can develop a longer term tenure with the organization. So for example, often we'll see that there may be a 3-month assignment around specific subject matter where we have the right capability between the founders of the company and the broader team. We may focus on that, but it could well be that we'll have an extended period where we act as an advisor. There may be non-executive opportunities. It really depends on the nature of the mandate. In addition, we feel the alignment with the resourcing is that, particularly with new initiatives, obviously, let's say somebody's introducing a new capability or they're doing something transformational, they potentially also have a requirement to resource that. It doesn't necessarily all come from inside the organization. It could come from outside of that. So we feel there's an alignment, and part of what Adapa Advisory is trying to do is be able to offer a range of services that are relevant in the post-trade and security services space. And this is a starting point. You know, we've got other plans of offering broader post-trade services, either through our own initiative or through the use of partners. Look, I think there's a variety of things, and obviously it depends on which segment that you're looking at, you know. So in some instances, if I take the banks specifically, obviously it's a challenging period in the sense of revenues are under pressure, costs has been a focus to ensure that the businesses are returning the right level of margin. So in that regard, there's opportunities around the overall business model. There's opportunities around looking at the operating and technology model that supports that business, so that you're looking at things holistically to the benefit of the economics of the business overall. In other instances, you may have organizations that are looking to expand their capability. And as you know, there's a tremendous focus on innovation and bringing new solutions to market, whether that's in the context of digital assets, whether it's in the context of regulatory technology, whether it's in the context of organizations that are saying we're sitting on significant pools of data, but we're not really applying that pool of data in the way that our clients want to demand it, would require it. So in that instance, there's a number of things related to the banks. If you look at the technology side, you've got a slightly different dynamic in the sense of if you've got emerging technology companies, they may well have great technology, great product, but they might not necessarily have the connectivity with the market. So in that instance, we can offer that level of connectivity, kind of helping them with strategy, helping them with their client engagement model. And the same would be true with the developed technology companies. As you would know, these companies have, in some cases, grown significantly organically, or they've grown through multiple acquisitions. So that can often lead to an architecture that's maybe a little bit disjointed as far as the market sees it. It could lead to challenges around their overall client engagement model. So depending on the segment, there could be different opportunities. From an Africa point of view, clearly in Africa, the markets are at different stages of development. So the advisory component there could be looking at international product, international best practice that may be relevant as the African markets are expanding. So it's applying that kind of background, that local knowledge of Africa with an international knowledge to bring solutions to Africa that are relevant for the market and help kind of drive the development of product, hopefully drive the development of capital markets and so on. So there's various touch points here, but often it's pulling on subject matter expertise that is transferable between those based on the nature of the assignments.